Today we will be talking about lotus birth. So what is lotus birth? It depends. A few people think a few different things. Some believe that a lotus birth is when the woman is allowed to birth her baby. Allowed, because in hospitals this is what women are seen as patients. Allowed to birth the babies and the placenta before the cord is cut. So a lot of hospitals, disturbingly, the baby is born and then immediately they cut the cord when the placenta is still inside of the mom. And so some would say lotus birth is when the mother births the baby and then waits for the placenta to also birth. So this is what surprised me during my birth and pregnancy, learning about all of this, is that actually when you birth a child, it's like giving birth twice, because you birth your baby and then you birth your placenta. And depending on how much energy you have, actually, it can take anywhere from like 5 to 30 minutes. For me, it took about an hour, and I think that's because I didn't really eat anything during my labor at all. It was all night, and I didn't have anything to drink. I just wanted to like focus and do it. So like my friends were offering me coconut water, something to eat, and I didn't want any of it. So actually by the end I was pretty exhausted, and so I would recommend at least drinking like a smoothie or a juice during your labor so you have enough energy to quickly birth your placenta. I want to read an excerpt about this. Modern versus traditional treatment of the placenta. If you were born in a hospital in North America, Europe, or the so-called developed or civilized world, your placenta was labeled as medical waste and incinerated. It was treated as garbage and thrown away without ritual or even a pause to offer gratitude for its significant role in your advent. In the past, some hospitals would sell their patients' placentas to cosmetic companies. Without your permission, your placenta may have ended up in a shampoo or facial cream product. That is so disturbing to read, and it's so sad, especially after giving birth to my beautiful baby girl and doing a lotus birth. And so this is what I believe a lotus birth is. It's not just letting the woman birth the baby and the placenta, because that could just be an hour and then they cut it. No, I believe that, and many other would agree with me, that a lotus birth is when you birth your baby and the placenta and you do not cut the cord at all. You do not cut the cord, so the cord eventually comes off on its own between 3 to 9 days. And with her, the cord came off. She was born on Wednesday morning, early in the morning, and it came off around Sunday night. And so about 4 days or so. So did I plan to have a lotus birth? Not necessarily, but it was on my mind. I knew for sure that I did not want to cut her cord. I read all about delayed cord clamping, and I knew that I wanted to keep it as long as possible, but I didn't really know, because you don't know until you have the experience, so you don't know really what it looks like. I didn't know what the cord was going to look like. I didn't know what the placenta was going to look like. And so in my other videos, I talked about my birth story. You can watch that first if you want to know, but I wanted to make a separate video about lotus birth because I believe that this is such an important aspect of birth. People really talk so much about diet and pregnancy and getting enough nutrients, and also about the birth itself, but really it's the after. It's the third stage of labor, I believe they call it. Fourth stage? Third stage. But in a lot of cultures around the world, placentas are respected and seen as like a spiritual, significant organ in the child's life. Some people even see it as the child's twin. So in cultures like India, Bali, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and she's half Vietnamese, so I'm really happy I could do this for her. In the past, they would bury the placenta, either make a tree. In Vietnam, in some places, they would bury the placenta under the mother's bed. I don't know, like, if that means under the house or literally under the bed. And other places of the world, they put it out to sea, or they grow a tree, or they put it in the river. And so it's something that is really sacred and respected in other cultures, and it's really sad that Western hospitals just toss it away and they're selling it not any. I think they're still using it for cord blood banking. That's another story, but they're doing it less with cosmetics, but they were doing that. And regardless, they're still treating it as waste. So at the very worst, they're selling it to other companies and using it without your permission. And at the very best, they're cutting it really early and just tossing it. And this has serious implications to your little one. So they started cord clamping, immediate cord clamping, a few decades ago, basically to make it easier for the medical staff at the hospital. This has nothing to do with the baby, nothing to do with the woman, and nothing to do with the health of both. The health, longevity, the life quality of both. It just has to do with what's convenient for them. She's been awake for hours. I wanted to put her in here to sleep, but she wanted to look out. And for me, I had my thoughts about the placenta, that it was this disgusting organ, because this is what is programmed into our mind. Anything that has to do with birth is just messy and inconvenient, and it's about getting the baby out as quickly as possible instead of really enjoying the experience and growing from it, you know? And this isn't even about women being drugged and babies being drugged and all of these things. This is just about the placenta. And when I actually saw it during her birth, I saw that it was a living organ. It's moving. The cord is moving. And so to cut it is just, it's violence to the baby is what it is. Also, they justify cutting the placenta to prevent jaundice, which many newborns have already, and most of the jaundice is not really a problem. It's a very light case and it will disappear on its own. The other case of jaundice needs to be treated with phototherapy, but there really hasn't been any research showing that babies who enjoy delayed cord clamping have more jaundice. But it does show that babies who are immediately clamped within 10 seconds of being born, can you imagine coming into this world and then immediately someone cuts your cord from something you've been attached to for 9 months? She started crying because she doesn't want to hear about this clamping. So I turned it around, going on a walk. Anyway, so her birth, after about 8 hours of labor, she was born under the stars. And then about an hour later, I was like really high, you know, like shaking too. Just, wow, a baby came out of me, you know? Okay, she's finally sleeping. Where was I? I'm feeling a little shaky. And then I feel the contractions, which is the placenta coming. And it's like a birth. And then it finally comes out. So everything was good. Her umbilical cord obviously was on when she was out, so I had to be careful turning around because I had to turn around. She's posterior position. Yeah, so we rested. She started breastfeeding pretty much right away. I put her skin to skin. And then we were like that for a few days, just in bed, bonding with each other, feeding, sleeping, recovering. And my friend put the placenta in a bowl. It was, yeah, I've never seen anything like it. It's like a piece of meat, you know, and some people eat it, which is what, this is the book I'm reading from, by the way, Placenta, the Forgotten Chakra by Robin Lim. And I actually didn't read it until after I gave birth, just last week. I started reading it, and I read it in just a few days. It's a really easy read. I would really recommend it if you are pregnant or you plan to give birth in the future. But yeah, we were just in bed. The placenta was in the bowl for like a day or two. My friend put salt on it for me. That's another thing I would really, if you're going to do this, you need someone helping you, because you need to put all of your attention on the baby, and you're going to be exhausted. I was exhausted, so I just didn't even like think about how to take care of this thing. My friend did it all for me. I'm very thankful for her. So she put the salt on it, and then the next day she started putting lavender on it, so fresh lavender. Depending on where you are in the world, The herbs can be different. Some people do rosemary, and you put it in the crevices too, like all over it. And then after, I think 2 days, she transferred it from a bowl into a bag, into a towel, and then a bag. And so the whole time the umbilical cord was attached to the baby's belly button, and she was super peaceful, of course, because she still is attached. So it's less of a shock to come into the world. She still has this placenta that was with her for 9 months. It's like a best friend, you know, like you're still attached, and nobody is taking it away from you. You decide. The placenta, like nature decides when it comes off, and it's going to come off eventually. It's not just going to stay there, you know. And so for some people, the issue of practicality arises. Yes, it was a little bit of a little bit more effort to have the placenta on, because just like breastfeeding her, I had to pick her up, and then like I had to move the placenta as well to make sure it wasn't breaking, and I had to be very careful. I didn't really dress her in the first couple days, honestly. Like, she was just kind of, we were skin to skin, you know, and we're living in a warm place. It was a tropical environment, and so it wasn't an issue with being cold. But actually, it doesn't matter where you are, because the mom's skin and the baby's skin, the mom's skin is the most effective thing at warming the baby's skin. So this is even more than any blanket, anything. And so even if you are in a cold climate, you can still keep your baby naked, especially the first day. But anyway, back to the placenta. Yeah, it was a little bit of work, like but it wasn't anything terrible, you know, and I just am so happy I was able to do that for her. Why? Because of the feeling, my intuition. And a lot of midwives say this too, that they have been trained to cut the cord, but they really don't feel right about it. They feel something in their heart. This isn't right. And it doesn't really have to do with research. Once you have your baby and you see it, and you see this thing pulsing, and you see the blood going through, you see it going to your baby, this is your baby's blood. This is not cord blood. So they're going to tell you that it's cord blood, but actually your baby is missing out on at least 30% of your baby's blood when the cord is cut, and that was blood that was supposed to be in your baby's body. That's not just something extra, and that is all going to the baby through the cord. And I was watching it, and wow, you know, and so it was really thick and like skin colory gray when she was first born, moving, and then slowly it started getting smaller. And it started hardening too, and so by the end, actually a couple days in, it was totally hard. There was a little kink in it, and it kind of, yeah, I had to make sure it wasn't going into her stomach. It was like a 90-degree angle, and so you have to be careful with that. But yeah, I saw it completely dry out, and then that's when some people would say, okay, like, it's totally dry, it's totally hard, and I squeezed it a little bit to see, is she going to react? And she didn't. And so I knew if I did cut it, I don't think she wouldn't hurt physically, you know? But I still felt it's not the right time. And why? Why do it? Because it's not really taking me any extra effort, a little bit, but not much. I mean, I just had a baby. This is about the baby, and so respect your child, you know? At the very least, they've seen improvements in blood and less chances of anemia, even after just 10 minutes. So even if you wait 10 minutes, even 1 minute, 3 minutes, compared to immediately clamping and cutting the cord, then you're doing something good for your baby. But I think the perfect case scenario would be a full lotus birth. It sounds a little ridiculous to some, but that's only because culturally we've been taught that the cord has to come away, and that we think everything is gross. We think blood is gross, we think organs are gross, and so that's a reason. But if you really see it for what it is, it's beautiful. And so finally on Sunday the cord came off. I didn't even notice. She didn't even cry. I thought that she might cry. Some babies cry. But she didn't even react, and she was just kind of moving around, and then I looked down at her belly button, and wow, it was off, and it came off right at the belly button. And so I was worried, oh, is it going to come off in the middle? Is it going to come off near the placenta? What do I have to do? But it came off right at the belly button, And then I waited until my partner came here so we could put the placenta in the river. We were planning to grow a tree, but it just didn't happen like that. We didn't want to in the end. And then with her belly button, it's going to look the same as every other baby, so you don't have to worry about the belly button looking any different. It's an innie. And all you have to do is put some coconut oil on it for antibacterial. It's as simple as that, so it's actually really easy, and you are benefiting your baby so much. Anecdotal evidence is showing that babies that have lotus births are more calm, more confident, more peaceful. Obviously there isn't any statistics about this, but I think just using your common sense, and I can say for myself, this baby is really peaceful. She barely cries. And I do believe that is part of, it's not only the natural birth, and it's not only that I really de-stressed during my pregnancy, because all of these things are equally important, but also because of the lotus birth and not clamping her cord. Another thing that they might tell you at hospitals is pressuring you or trying to convince you to save the blood in the cord. They're calling this cord blood, but it's not cord blood. It is blood that goes into your baby that your baby should have right now. They're convincing parents to save this blood in a blood bank, so paying thousands of dollars and then paying hundreds of dollars each year to keep it there, just in case this baby gets a rare disease later on in life, which you don't even know if that blood is going to cure it or not. And so they've put estimates at 1 in 200,000 that your baby will actually need the blood later on, but it's just common sense that your baby needs the blood right now because their lungs are the last organ to develop, and if they don't have that, they're at risk for anemia and stress and all of these things. And so the thing with the cord blood banking, it's all about money. It's not really about the health of you or your baby. The author of this book, Robin Lim, she is a midwife in Bali, and she's also worked in the Philippines, and she has stated that a lot of her clients have done lotus births, at least delayed cord clamping. Some of them choose to burn the cord instead of cutting it, which they say is easier on the baby. I believe that you should just leave it to nature and let it come off naturally. But she has helped birth thousands of babies, literally thousands, and she says that they have 100% breastfeeding rate, and we all know how good breastfeeding is for the baby, and so all of these things are connected. The blood, the placenta, breastfeeding, the bonding between the baby and the mother, and the disposition of the child as well. So all of these things are reasons why to keep the cord on as long as possible. And you can even talk, if you're not doing a home birth, you can talk to your hospital about this because you are the person who's paying for it. This is your baby, not theirs. But if you're doing it at home, it's obviously going to be a lot easier. Some people have concerns that if people visit, they're going to be disturbed, but honestly, I think the most disturbing thing is jeopardizing our children and causing harm to them. And if people don't like that, then you don't have to let them visit your baby. Okay, I'm going to end with another excerpt from the book. If you were born in a hospital or clinic, it happened to you. If you plan to give birth in nearly any medical institution on earth, it will happen to your baby, unless you demand time for your baby to receive all of the blood he or she is meant to have. Immediate or early clamping and cutting off babies' umbilical cords is the biggest, most widespread, medically sanctioned human rights issue on earth. Together, we can make this a thing of the past. May our babies all be blessed by our patience. So yeah, you do have to have patience for this. But it keeps you in bed longer, which is what you need to do after birth to rest. Because I'm a person, I wanted to go for a walk, I wanted to hike up a mountain. The week later, I thought I was fine, but actually, no. You need rest, and your baby needs time to bond with you, and your baby needs the most peaceful entrance into this world as possible, and by keeping the cord on, you're doing that and so much more. So I really hope that this video has at least made people think twice about clamping the cord and leaving it on and doing a lotus birth.